Right, let's turn first to Lionel Barber, who, of course, is editor of the Financial Times, a tenure of around 15 years now, an author, broadcaster, co-hosts the Media Confidential podcast. Lionel, I'm asking you now to be a journalist, psychiatrist and criminologist. Why is Trump doing what Trump is doing? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Well, I'll do my best, Dr. Barber. Nick, he wants to turn America into a manufacturing superpower. That's the first goal. It's to bring back manufacturing jobs to America. And he thinks he can do that by imposing tariffs, barriers against the likes of the Chinese. So it's too expensive to export to America. That's the first thing. The second thing he wants to do, Nick, is he's looking already at his legacy. He wants to be a great American president. These are the biggest economic measures in terms of protectionism for a century. The last person who tried anything like this was William McKinley. By the way, he was assassinated, but we'll come to that later. I think Trump 2 is so different from Trump 1. Trump 2 thought that the first time he was in the White House, he was thwarted by rational advisors. He was prevented from doing what he wanted to do. This time, it's for real. And it's no exaggeration, Nick. I think this is a new American revolution.
How dangerous is this moment for the UK, Lionel?
It's very dangerous because as a regular listener to LBC and particularly the morning news show, Nick,
Thank you, Lionel.
I know that Rachel Reeves has next to no what she calls headroom. That's that margin of maneuver on the public finances. I mean, we've been running a big deficit. Our economy is not growing. Productivity is weak. And now we're going to be bashed with tariffs. However, all is not completely lost because, as you alluded to earlier, Nick, there is a deal underway. The question is, how much is Donald Trump going to shake down Sir Keir Starmer? Because he's a pretty good negotiator too.
Give my listeners a pointer. You edited the FT for 15 years. You won awards for it. At 9 o'clock, roughly 9 o'clock tonight, our time, what will you specifically be listening out for, Lionel?
I want to know whether he's going to impose across the board 20% tariffs, or whether we, as Brits, the UK, get slightly less than that. I don't think we'll hear anything about the deal, by the way, because Sir Keir Starmer, I think, is going to have to drop or ease that digital services tax on the big tech giants. I want to look at what they do to the EU, because Trump really has a problem with the EU. And this might surprise you, Nick, but the one thing we can say is Britain is not part of the EU. So I don't think we're going to get bashed as badly as the EU, in particular Germany.
That's a quote to cherish from Lionel Barber. Thanks for that. Check out his Media Confidential podcast. Lionel Barber, former editor of the Financial Times, now author and broadcaster. 13 after 8. Listening is Allie, Renison, trade policy expert, associate director of the strategic communications company SEC Newgate, and served as an advisor to Kemi Badenoch when she was business and trade secretary. Can I start with the question with which I finished with Lionel Barber? What will you specifically be listening out for in, 12, 14 hours' time or so? Morning to you.
Morning. I mean, I think there's two quick things. One is, are we really going to get implementation of this stuff same day tomorrow, or are we going to have basically some more room to negotiate before this kind of come into effect? And two, I think, is what is the variation? Because we know that Trump likes things simple. He likes the idea of kind of just a sort of big tariff uplift across the world. He doesn't want to have to do this kind of country by country analysis. But if we get into that country by country reciprocal stuff, I think there's more sort of room to play with for the UK and less impact.
Where will there be more jitters tonight, number 10 or number 11 Downing Street?
I would say probably number 10 ultimately, because I think, that the political sort of narrative is that, obviously, as you mentioned, Keir Starmer went to the White House and kind of made a great show of kind of the what he calls an economic deal, Trump called a trade deal. There is a reason they're using different terms, because I think the concept of a full fat FTA sometimes scares the British public when they start thinking about what might be included. But keep in mind that from a fiscal perspective, the OBR, I think, worried obviously number 11 by saying saying, well, all of your kind of, potential sort of targeted surplus could be wiped out if we get the full enchilada, as it were, of some 20% impact in response to the tariffs. But, and importantly, they cut that in terms of the impact if there's not widespread retaliation. So I think that's one of the reasons you're not seeing sort of the UK speaking out in the way the EU is saying we're going to have sort of suites of kind of responses to imports of US goods.
Lastly, Ali, I love the saying, the full enchilada. We have a saying here in our production team, what does it mean to Mrs. Jones in Clapham? That is, whatever story we look at, we try to make it personal and what it actually represents to listeners. What does this mean to Mrs. Jones in Clapham? Donald Trump's tariffs.
Well, it certainly means that businesses, because they aren't going to be taking investment decisions because the landscape is so unclear, basically the markets and economic confidence is going to be so significantly eroded that you might see basically the economy starts to become a lot less, even more sluggish than it was. And I'd start thinking about what are the price impacts going to be in terms of the ripple effects.
Ali, thanks for your time today. Ali Renison, trade policy expert, associate director for the strategic communications company SEC Newgate. What now of what Sir Keir Starmer tried to achieve, and how do we look at the Donald Trump tenure at the White House?